Hello and welcome back to another Exos Hero video, and today we'll be looking at the newly released Summer Guy Glen Fate Core. So this is another addition to the Summer Festa Fate Core line, and obviously, it's amazing that we're already, into the week 4 of this event. And today we're gonna take a closer look at what Glen has to offer with his new Fate Core, and whether or not you should be saving your Exes for someone later. And just to be straightforward, since we're already in week 4 and I think a lot of us already have a pretty good grasp on what Summer Festa lineup has to offer, in our opinion, Glen probably comes in as the worst of the entire lineup so far. And that means he's probably not going to be a priority in our opinion, and you probably should be saving your resources for someone next week or the week after that, especially given that we have Yao coming up, as well as obviously we know Valentina and Bernadette are all coming up over the course of next 3 weeks. Wasting your resources on Glen right now is probably not the best case. But with that out of the way, let's take a look at why we don't think his Fate Core is that good. So much like the other Summer Festa Fate Cores, Glen definitely gets a little bit of an upgrade, especially coming through his skills. His A1 now does a little bit more damage. I think it used to be 100% damage to a single target, and now it does 150. Only costs 1 mana still, so that's pretty efficient mana wise. And also increases his own defense by 20% for 6 turns when this skill hits. Overall, it's pretty good. I think the only issue that I have with this is the defense buff only lasts 6 turns. I would like to see that to be a lot longer. One of the reasons for that is, if we think about the flop-flop passive, that's something that's obviously going to be impactful if you can somehow get it off. But the issue with that is, you need to have a removable buff on your hero in order to proc it. And given that his A1's increased defense buff only lasts 6 turns, it means that it probably will time out by the time he gets to move in the next round. So it's a little bit suboptimal. If this is something that would last maybe like 12 or 15 turns, that would be a lot better. Not only just because, it lasts a little bit longer, but also just because the fact that it'll allow Glen to set up his own flop-flop passive. But obviously, 6 turns is okay, especially as the fight drags on and some of the heroes start dying. Maybe 6 turns is enough for Glen to get his turn again. So the value of this goes up the less heroes are on the field. Similarly, his A2 also gets a little bit of a damage buff. I think it used to be 120% or 119%, and now it goes up to 178% damage to all enemies. Also applies shock for 5 turns. And again, the issue with this skill is he already has a shock debuff for 5 turns. And this is very similar to the issue that we had with Degas, is the fact that, both of them has these AoE A2s that already has a 5-turn stun built into the skill, which means the 3-turn additional CC that you can potentially get from the flop-flop passive is essentially useless in this case, because the flop-flop passive and the 5-turn shock doesn't really stack with each other, so it's not like you're getting an 8-turn stun from having this skill. At the most, you're gonna get a 5-turn shock that already come with his A2 anyway, so not really the best. And essentially that means you're only going to proc your flop-flop passive through his A1 or his auto tech. Both are single targets, so not necessarily the best. And lastly, just to quickly recap his passive here, so he still have thrust. Upon taking damage, he returns 30% damage back to the attacker and stun them for 5 turns. Pretty good, but doesn't have any mana generation. Really like to see this get upgraded to like a thrust 2 or something. And he still got a flap flap passive here. Oh, actually that's flap flap. I guess it's flop flop for the girls and it's flap flap for the guys. I didn't notice that before. That's interesting. But yeah, so flap flap, similar to flop flop. What it does is it applies a 3-turn stun whenever you attack someone when you have a removable buff or recovery or positive effect on your hero. So it's pretty good. Definitely much more useful if you have AoE skills that can take advantage of this. And this is why we think someone like Scarlet really benefits from this quite a bit. Yet when it comes to Glen, because the fact he already has a stun on his A2 that's AoE, this is essentially useless on him. And I really hope the flap passive would be something a little bit different, maybe something that makes him a little bit tankier, or just provide a different kind of utility, because both Degas as well as Glen here just don't have a kit that can really take advantage of this. And lastly, he's still got the Summer's Blessing passive like everyone else. This is always going to be a positive bonus to you, but it's definitely situational because it provides frost damage immunity for 1 turn. That's great, but obviously it's useful when you're up against a very frost heavy team. Especially in PvE situations, this can definitely come in handy, but the problem is, because when you think about in PvE situations, the place you really want to take advantage of the Summer's Blessing is probably during the special dungeons, right? Like that's one of the most useful plays that you can have. However, Glenn is a machine type hero, so it's not the best in that case. I think this skill to be on someone like Bernadette would actually be really helpful. But on Glenn, it's a little bit wasted. You can probably still take advantage of this situationally in places like Upier's Labyrinth or certain main story quest places, but overall it's going to be situational. And of course you still get a benefit of the increased attack by 50% for 9 turns whenever the frost damage immunity effect is removed. So obviously this is always going to be a benefit for your team, but like we mentioned so many times now, it's situational, can be good, but a lot of times it might just be there without ever being utilized. So overall, Glenn just doesn't bring too much. I really hope that, Glenn would get some sort of upgrade to be able to make him a better hero, especially for the special dungeons during the machine days. There are not that many great machine heroes out there, especially when it comes to rare heroes or legendaries. I think people mostly rely on heroes like Yorm or Colin. It's another very popular choice. I really hope that Glenn would have gotten a better upgrade so that he can be a part of that special dungeon lineup, but so far looking at his Fate Core just doesn't seem to be the case. And I understand that the devs really want to, keep a consistent theme when it comes to develop these Fate Cores. I get it. Unfortunately, it just felt like Glenn is kind of forced into this lineup and he's not really getting too much out of it. But with that being said, that's our review of the Summer Guy Glenn. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Hopefully you found it informative. And just as a quick recap, definitely save your resources for the following weeks. Glenn should not be a priority for you, so control your urges. Let's wait until next week for Yao or Bernadette, or even better, when we get to Valentina, I think she will definitely be a priority. So with that being said, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. We're really close to our 200 subscriber target. And if you would like to see other Exos Hero related content, feel free to check out our other video as well. And as always, we'll see you soon in the next video. Bye bye.